Here we have a pumpkin that is 5 days after pollination. We abbreviate days after pollination DAP, D-A-P, so 5 DAP or DAP 5. And so far it looks like this pumpkin has taken. You can see that the skin of the fruit is shiny and the blossom end, it's shriveled a little bit, but overall it's kept its size. It's not huge right now, and it only grows a tiny bit a day for like the first 10 days or so, and then it'll start to kind of pick up a little bit. So don't expect some huge growth early on, but you don't want it to be completely stagnant and not grow at all. Sadly, I have had a pumpkin abort, so I will show you what that looks like, and it's actually the same exact DAP. It's 5 DAP, and you'll be able to see the difference between a pumpkin that has taken and one that has aborted. This pumpkin here is also 5 days after pollination, and you can see a few things. One, it's a lot smaller than the other pumpkin. Two, the skin of the fruit is dull in color, it's not shiny, and you can also see the blossom end has kind of shrunk and wilted a little bit. This fruit here sadly has aborted, so I'm gonna have to find a new pumpkin to pollinate and go from there. Sometimes this happens and it's all part of the game. It's very important to protect your pumpkin, especially early on. The skin is very soft and sensitive. You can easily scratch the skin with your nail, with a watch, a ring. Anything near it has the potential to scratch it, and one tiny little scratch on this baby can result in a huge scar in the bigger pumpkin. So be very careful when you work around it. And you want to protect it from the sun because you don't want the sun to dry out the skin. So I use a white cloth. I start with a little washcloth and I move my way up to like a king size comforter. But basically you just want to cover the flesh of the fruit. Now early on, this blossom nub is still a little bit wet and needs to dry out, so I leave that part exposed, but I cover up the flesh of the fruit to protect it from the sun. You can put a fan on it at this stage as well to help get this to dry out, and that's all you got to do early on. Here we have my pumpkin that is 14 days after pollination, and it's finally starting to pick up speed. Again, you can see the skin is nice and shiny, so as of now it looks like it's a keeper. You can see I have it on some sand. The sand helps the ground under it drain, so it's not sitting in anything wet. And then outside of that, I have it on what's called mill fabric. Mill fabric is this plasticky material. It has good drainage and it slides really well. I live in Maine, so you can actually get mill fabric from the paper mills. Most people buy it from other giant pumpkin growers. If you're a beginner, you could buy some of that hard insulation and have that as a surface to grow on, and then but definitely you have to put sand underneath the pumpkin so that it slides well, and it helps keep the pumpkin slightly round on the bottom, or at least flat. Now I want to adjust the pumpkin a little bit. The left side of it is getting a little close to that vine, so I'm going to shift it a little bit. It is 1 o'clock p.m. in the heat of the day, and it's a warm day, so I'm just going to gently move it a tiny little bit just to start getting it into position. And you're going to move it a little bit each day until it's exactly where you want it. And remember, don't wear any jewelry or watches because these babies scratch up really quick and easy. Even a leaf can scratch it quite a bit. So let's just move this a little bit. That might be enough for today. We don't want to do a ton. All right, that'll be enough for today. And you can see we moved it a little bit. We got to move it a little more tomorrow, but that'll do for today. Don't wait too long to do this because it's going to get too heavy soon and you won't be able to move it. This is another visual of sliding your pumpkin perpendicular to the vine. And another thing you want to do is slide it parallel to the ground. If you don't do this, one of two things can happen. One, it can grow onto the stem and vine, which can potentially snap either of those. It can also form a bird bath on the other end where water can accumulate in the blossom end and cause rot issues. The other thing that can happen is that it grows down towards the blossom end, which will restrict airflow and can cause issues with rotting. As you can see here, one of the roots has released at the base of the pumpkin, but these on the vine are still very anchored down, and we need to release them so that the vine can lift up as the pumpkin grows. Here I'm removing some dirt around the root as best I can. I want to preserve as much of the root as I can, but I also want to be able to lift that vine up very easily. So here I'm doing it again on this vine, loosening the roots up, and then we just got to test it and make sure there's some give, and now we have lots of give to grow up with the pumpkin. You'll see here on the stem, I got a little crack. It's going longitudinal, and that's totally fine. This is actually a good thing. It means our pumpkin is growing aggressively. This is very normal, so don't freak out.